Tony Blain is a Poway City Council member here, was elected in November of 2024 in District 2, um, inaugurated into office, took the oath of office in December, 2024, pardon me, took the oath of office in December of 2024. And here we are in May of 2025, and there's an active recall against him. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, a lot of this is based on unscrupulous, unethical behavior. Some might say illegal behavior by a public official. In some cases, it's making quid pro quo arrangements with other people on, other city council members. Like, hey, if you don't support me on this bill, I'm going to create a recall against you for the next election. In other cases, not using public channels of communication, because, all these politicians have a city-owned email address, and all city business should be conducted through that city email address because we want transparency. We want the public record out there. But a lot of Tony Blain's correspondence allegedly have been on personal email, and also in many cases using that Signal chat, which is the one that, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has been using, which is encrypted, but essentially it's used specifically to avoid public record, to avoid public transparency. Now, there's a lot of other things going on here, and there's a whole movement to get him out. And there's some breaking news I want to share with you. Now, first of all, the recall campaign is really being driven by three individuals. At least they're the figureheads. And that's John Couvrette, who is the former, or might even be still the existing chairman of the board of the Poway Chamber of Commerce. John is also the president of the Poway Kiwanis Club, very active socially or locally in a lot of things in the business and community organizing efforts. They even created the Poway Foundation, which is to raise money for nonprofits. So he's very well connected. And by the way, his wife, Ginger Couvrette, serves on the Poway Unified School Board. So kind of a power couple, and he's one of the main spokesmen. The other two main spokespeople are Anita Edmonston, a former Poway City Council member, and John Mullen, another longtime Poway City Council member. Now, here's some breaking news from John Couvrette, and this is very interesting. So last night, apparently, there was video taken near City Hall of Tony Blain being approached by police officers. And you're thinking, oh my God, what's going on? So according to John Couvrette, he says there were 3 uniformed police officers from the district attorney's office. They detained Tony Blain and searched his car after the city council meeting. I did not see any arrest. Since the DA started interviewing multiple people regarding Tony's alleged vote trading and extortion several months ago, the DA has declined to comment on the Tony Blain matter. This is the first public action I am aware of regarding the DA's office investigation of Tony Blain. Interesting. So he's already coming under fire here. I mean, he's been under fire locally, but now it's becoming a legit, do we need to get the district attorney for the county of San Diego here? Is this an unscrupulous politician that is violating the law, violating ethics standards? This is serious. It's quite serious. But I want to comment, though, on a number of other things to this, like what's going on with this recall, et cetera. Now, first of all, there have been a lot of recall efforts here in Poway. The most successful one, of course, was the recall of Petty Rexford, which I think happened about 15 years ago. And that's what ultimately eventually led to Steve Voss getting on Poway City Council and then eventually mayor, because Steve Voss was the ringleader of the Betty Rexford recall petition. But since then, there have been a number of other recall attempts. There's been multiple recalls efforts on Mayor Voss. I mean, in fact, I know another local community organizer, Chris Olps, was the leader of one of those. And made some headway, got some traction, but never got enough signatures to qualify to get it on the ballot. Now, right now, there is an active recall against sitting council member Peter DeHoff from District 3. Peter DeHoff is my representative on the Poway City Council. But that recall effort seems to be way, way less aggressive than this Tony Blain recall. I mean, if I don't know, I don't think this DeHoff recall is really a serious effort. I think it's being run by a number of people that are kind of the outspoken vocal minority that oppose a lot of what's happening on City Hall, in some cases for rightful reasons. But I don't see this recall effort for DeHoff being serious. But this recall of Tony Blain, from a marketing perspective, I'm impressed, because right now they're gathering signatures and they've got to get a certain number of signatures to get on the ballot. So they've got a lot of presence on social media. I've seen YouTube videos. I've seen information on Instagram, on Facebook. So from a social media perspective, they're out there. They've done direct mail to voters. In fact, there's an example there on my screen of some of the recall Tony Blain postcards that have been distributed. I mean, this is a serious effort and it's funded by a lot of people. Now, it's way more professional than what I've seen from other recall efforts. Now, granted, the Betty Rexford recall about 15 years ago, I was not as deeply tuned into Poway politics. But I'm just going to say, from a marketing perspective, I'm impressed with these guys are doing. And the messaging is consistent. It's on target. The evidence is presented clearly. And, from that point of view, I think it's a worthy effort. Now, I'm praising the marketing effort of the campaign. The separate issue is Tony Blain, should he be recalled? I think we can all form our opinions on that. To me, if there's enough evidence, I think so. At very minimum, I think people should sign the ballot to get the recall effort. I like recalls as a general rule. I like recalls because it keeps local politicians on their toes. If they're threatened by a recall, then, they might decide to maybe change their behavior. I think recalls are good. I think recalls are an important part of democracy. Even if I don't necessarily support recalling a person, I'm usually generally supportive of the recall effort. I didn't sign the petition to recall Mayor Voss, mostly because I didn't go out and pursue the opportunity to sign it, but I would have, because I like recalls. But in the end, that I didn't have confidence that the recall of Voss was going to really legitimize itself and become reality. And sure enough, it didn't. So I don't think my one signature was going to make a difference. But speaking of signatures, this is interesting too, is that in the Recall Tony Blain Facebook page, which is run by John Couvrette, one of our good friends of the John Riley Project podcast, our friend Ed Franklin. Ed Franklin's terrific. Go check out his podcast, Ed Franklin, No Limits. He loves talking about, overcoming your struggles in life and being positive and going out there and doing it, getting things done. He also is a great sales leader, a sales professional, a sales trainer. I mean, he's like our local Zig Ziglar, Ed Franklin. So you want to check out Ed Franklin and his work, I encourage you to do it. But Ed Franklin was asking the Recall Tony Blain page, how are we doing on signatures? And John Couvrette responded. And I was honestly surprised he responded. I figured they wouldn't say anything about this, until they got really close, because they want to kind of, keep it under the vest. But it turned out John Couvrette was very open and candid. He says, we need 25% of the 9,700 plus registered voters to sign it. We are halfway through the 90 days and are more than halfway to our required signatures. So that means they're kind of ahead of pace, which is good from their perspective. The momentum is picked up. However, there is still an effort required to get us across the finish line. Interesting. So they're sort of kind of on track. They still need a lot more help. But like I said, I think this recall effort has a better chance of succeeding than a lot of other recall efforts in town. I don't know how Tony Blain's going to survive this. I mean, I know that he's threatened some of his local constituents. I tried to have the police go after them. He has said that he, won't talk to people on social media. He'll only talk face to face. And if you attempt to record the conversation, he'll leave. So he's just not a man of the people. It's crazy.